Ezra and I had what everyone called a perfect marriage. 10 years, 2 beautiful kids, and a home filled with laughter. Or so I thought. Our story began like a fairy tale. We met in college. He was the charming star athlete, and I was the studious bookworm. It was a classic case of opposites attract. He swept me off my feet, and for a decade, I believed I was living the dream. But dreams have a funny way of turning into nightmares when you least expect it. The first crack in our perfect facade appeared on a Tuesday. It was our anniversary, and Ezra was late. Not just a little late, but hours late. He finally stumbled in close to midnight, reeking of a perfume that wasn't mine and muttering about a last-minute client dinner. I wanted to believe him. I really did. So I pushed the knot of unease in my stomach down, kissed him, and pretended everything was fine. But that knot stayed there, a constant, heavy reminder that something was wrong. The signs started piling up after that. Late nights at the office, hushed phone calls he'd take in another room, and a sudden, almost obsessive privacy with his phone and laptop. He'd angle the screen away from me, his fingers flying across the keyboard, and when I'd ask what he was doing, he'd just say, work stuff. The man I married, the one who used to share every detail of his day, was suddenly a stranger. The distance between us grew, not just physically but emotionally. It felt like I was sleeping next to a ghost. My friends told me I was being paranoid. He's just stressed, they say. Running a business is tough. I tried to convince myself they were right. I threw myself into being the perfect wife and mother, hoping my love and dedication would somehow bridge the chasm that was opening between us. I planned date nights, cooked his favorite meals, and listened patiently to his vague complaints about work. But it was like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. My efforts were met with distracted smiles and empty promises. The breaking point, the moment the illusion shattered completely, came on a rainy Saturday afternoon. The kids were at their grandparents', and the house was quiet for the first time in weeks. Ezra was supposedly on a business trip for the weekend. I was cleaning out our shared closet when a small, unfamiliar box fell from the top shelf, hidden behind his old sports trophies. My heart started pounding. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside wasn't a forgotten anniversary gift or a sentimental keepsake. It was a burner phone. A cheap, prepaid phone. And a stack of receipts. Not for client dinners, but for expensive jewelry, lingerie I'd never seen, and stays at boutique hotels in our own city. Each receipt was a dagger to my heart. With a feeling of dread, I turned on the phone. It was unlocked. The screen lit up with a wallpaper I'd never seen before. Ezra, beaming, with his arm wrapped around a woman I didn't recognize. She was beautiful, laughing, and wearing a necklace I recognized from one of the receipts. The messages were a flood of irrefutable proof, hundreds of them. Texts filled with I love yous, inside jokes, and plans for a future that didn't include me or our children. They had nicknames for each other. They had a whole secret life, lived in the shadows of my own. I write about their first date, their anniversary, their plans to go on a trip to Paris, a trip he had always told me we couldn't afford. It turned out his business trips were romantic getaways. His late nights were dates. His stress wasn't from work. It was from the effort of juggling 2 lives. I sat on the floor of our closet, surrounded by the debris of my shattered marriage, and I couldn't even cry. I was just numb. It was like watching a movie of someone else's life. The man I had loved and trusted for over a decade was a complete stranger. The foundation of our life together, the shared memories, the promises, the vows, it was all built on a mountain of lies. Every I love you, every shared laugh, every moment I had cherished was now tainted, a cruel joke he had played on me. When Ezra came home the next day, tanned and relaxed from his business trip, I was waiting for him in the living room. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just placed the burner phone on the coffee table between us. The color drained from his face. For the first time in months, he looked at me, really looked at me, and saw not his adoring wife, but a woman who knew everything. The silence was deafening. There were no more excuses he could make, no more lies he could tell. the truth was laid bare between us. The days and weeks that followed were a blur of lawyers, difficult conversations, and telling our children. That was the hardest part. Explaining that the family they knew was changing forever. But through the pain, a strange sense of clarity emerged. I wasn't just a victim of his deceit, I was a survivor. Rebuilding my life from the ashes of his lies hasn't been easy, but every day, I feel a little stronger. I learned that my worth was never tied to his fidelity. I am learning to trust myself again, to believe in my own strength. The fairy tale is over, but my real story, the story of Celeste, is just beginning. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more.